welcome back to the show. My name's Marci Marie. In case you're tuning in for the first time, you are watching my playlist, I Am More Than My Record, and I have a special guest here. He is fresh out of the Texas penitentiary, Johnathan Hudson. Welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Johnathan, I'm really excited to talk to you. I saw you post a comment, I think, on one of the advocacy pages, and it said that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
were freshly out, and I immediately messaged you. I'm really excited to hear your story and really excited because you are so fresh. When did you get home?
June 22nd of this year.
June 22nd, and
About
today
6
is,
weeks. About 6 weeks.
wow,
Yes,
six
ma'am.
weeks home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're already doing some things with your life. I checked your Facebook page out and I just really loved seeing the pictures with your family, and
Yes, ma'am.
you have a job already. We want to hear all about that for sure. Can you tell me where you think your story kind of began as it relates to the criminal unjust system here in our state?
Well, I started breaking the law when I was young. I've sold drugs for probably since I was like 16 years old. And I did it just because I don't know, I didn't like to ask for help from people. And working was kind of, slow money. So I started selling drugs and it escalated. Just escalated. I got arrested for a bunch of misdemeanors, and it really just escalated from there to worse crimes and end up in a penitentiary for 10 years. So
I think that that's something that can snowball so quickly on
yes,
us,
ma'am.
and it's something I got to speak at a youth rally this past weekend, and that's something we talked about, how little decisions, that have little consequences kind of turn into bigger decisions that have bigger consequences, and it just kind of keeps going.
Yeah,
So
so much comes with that lifestyle that it's not something I ever imagined. The partying and shit just gets out of control, and it gets, you don't know when to stop. And when you get into a hole, you're digging a bigger hole and a bigger hole, and it just ain't no way out. So,
how long was your prison sentence?
15 years.
How long
I
did you do?
I did just over 10 and a half. I did like 10 years and 7 months.
We did almost the exact same amount of time.
Oh yeah,
So that's interesting. Yes, I had
yes,
a
ma'am.
20 piece. So you were talking about that lifestyle and how the consequences kind of get bigger and bigger as you roll. What would you say to someone 16 years old that started kind of like looking like that fast, easy money lifestyle maybe was a good idea? What would your advice be to that young person?
Honestly, it would just be to slow down, because I know how fast it can take you and how fast it can get, and the faster you go, the more out of control it's going to be. So it'd be to slow down and kind of enjoy your childhood and look at what's important. Because I tried to grow up too fast. I wanted all the responsibility, but I didn't know what being an adult and being a man was. So I was 16 trying to be 30, and I got shit. Now I am 30. I'm 31. So I missed my 20s, but that's the reason. I tried to grow up too fast, and and what's crazy is that I sold drugs, but that's never what got me. That's never what I was charged with. I've got a bunch of misdemeanors, and then this case right here, I was man, it was just from partying too much. That comes with the lifestyle. You sell drugs, you go to parties, you meet people, and then you party some more, and you party more, and then I did everything wrong. That's all it was. So
How old were you when you went into prison?
I was 20 years old when I caught this case, and then I was in county for 2 years. So technically, when I went to prison, I was 20, 22, 23. But I was incarcerated when I was 21. So I was in Harris County for 2 years. So
Oh, Jonathan, you're out of Harris County, and we
yes,
hear
ma'am.
so many reports coming
Yes,
out of
ma'am.
that county. Can you give us like that's probably the highest death rate in our
Yes,
state
ma'am.
as far as counties go. Can you tell me about the living conditions at Harris County?
It's been so long. I don't know how different it is now, but back then, it was hard. It's definitely up there with prison. Like prison time and Harris County time is about the same. You know, the only thing better is that it's AC. That's it. But I mean, it's the type of inmates you got in there, you know, the type of people, it's about the same. It's just it's hard, it's difficult for sure. It's difficult and this is yeah, it's a struggle for sure.
Going into the Texas prison system as a young man at the age of 22, and Texas prisons, the male prisons, are known for gangs. What
Yes,
was
ma'am.
your experience with that? How did you feel? And I think the question is that I get a lot on my social media platforms, especially from young men. If do you have to join a gang if you go to prison? Can you break that kind of down for us?
I mean, you don't have to. I never did. You know, I never. No, I did toy with the subject. I did kind of, you know, because when you get there, it's always going to be your race. It's going to be your race that wants you to, you know, if you're white or black, or if you, especially if you came from the world and you were in a gang, then that gang's gonna, they're gonna know who you are and where you're from, what you're part of. But like me being white, you know, I wasn't in a gang in the world. So when you get there, it's gonna be all the, you know, all the white people or the white gangs or white organizations, whatever you want to call them. They're the ones that are gonna come to you and hey, what are you? Are you anything? No. And I mean, they're gonna press you. They're gonna want you to. They you know, these tell me, come on home. That's what they used to tell me because I hang out with, I mean, where I'm from, I grew up in a trailer park, but I went to school with, you know, majority African Americans. So I get along with all races. I don't have a problem, you know, being around other people. I don't have a problem, you know, integrating with people. But when you go down there, a lot of the white people that are down there, they're gonna feel like, oh, you need to be with your people. So they used to joke with me and tell me to come on home. And I used to just tell them like, no, I know who I am. I know where I belong. I know where I'm at. And I'm good. I stand by myself. And I mean, I have a lot of friends, but anytime I've ever almost been in a fight down there or something's happened, it's always been a black dude or a Mexican that have my back. That's the crazy part. You know, I mean, it's not crazy to me, but just seeing how they act and they act like they have your back and then they don't, that's just so I mean, it's pressure. It's pressure for sure. They're gonna press you, they're gonna want you to do it. And I mean, you're gonna feel it because you're gonna feel like, you know, if I don't, then that kind of leaves me as an outcast. It leaves me as by myself. If something happens, I'm on my own. Or if somebody approaches me and I have a problem with more than one person, now I got nobody that has my back. And for some people, that's a problem. For me, I told you I sold drugs. For me, that's never been a problem. You know, because I know the authentic people are going to come out. The people that really are genuine, they're going to sort themselves out of the weeds. So, I mean, it was never hard for me to turn them down, but it definitely happened more than a few times. You know, so I'm just lucky nothing ever came of it to where I actually needed anybody like that. You know, it's I've known to maneuver my way through prison and be all right. So
In women's prisons in Texas, we kind of form pseudo families or play families. There's definitely a sisterhood there. And I
yes, ma'am.
can easily say that the best people I have ever met in my life, with the exception of maybe my dad, they are, I met them in prison.
Oh, for
And
sure,
I'm just,
for sure,
can
for
you
sure.
talk about that?
I mean, when it comes down to it, we all committed crimes and we're all felons and everybody has their own stories, their own crimes, you know, their own reason for doing it. But the thing about prison is that it strips away everything else. It strips away your cars, your clothes, the money you had, your family. It strips away all outside influences. So you get to, I mean, you get to sit around somebody, and I don't know if you've ever lived like had a roommate, you know, or anything, but when you live with somebody, you get to see the true self. You see them 24 hours a day. You see them when they do everything, when they eat, when they sleep, when they write, when they talk, when they listen. You see all that, so you get to see what a person's actually made of. I mean, it's really I used to tell people like it's real cheap in prison to find out what somebody's made of. Like it might cost you a soup or something. You know, you just might borrow a soup and they don't give it to back to you at 35 cents. Well, they're 35 cents now. They went up, but it's that cheap to find out what somebody's made of. And really, if you just pay attention, you can get it for free. So, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about somebody. When they don't have anything, any kind of outside influence, they don't have their homeboys or their friends or you know any kind of woman on their side or a man, you know, depending on whatever you prefer. It's just it tells you exactly who they are, and you know, and in that you get to find out who you are.
Let's talk about friends, and I'm not trying to like down on anybody that maybe you had in your life prior to prison, but I am curious because I think a lot of young people run with a group of people, and
Yes, ma'am.
then once they get busted and end up in prison, their friends are where and
Oh, no,
and
oh,
that's
nowhere around. Yeah, nowhere around.
yeah, I was just curious if any of your friends from that street life, if any of them were still in contact with you while you were incarcerated.
Over the years, I've gotten random letters from people every once in a while, or somebody will tell somebody, hey, you talk to them, tell them what's up, or you get that where you maybe you have one or two people you talk to and you call them and like, hey, so and so was asking about how to write you. But for me, my little sister had my information on my Facebook page the whole 10 years. So if you wanted to write me every time I moved, every time I went somewhere, she updated it. She would post pictures, of letters I sent or pictures of her coming to visit me. So I mean, I can tell you, I didn't have anybody that wrote that whole 10 years out besides family. I didn't have anybody. Now, every now and then, there's somebody would come along for a year and a half, a few months, and it was weird because someone would come around and they would write me, and it would be a year, 8 months, 12 months, 16 months, and when that person stopped, it was like a couple months later, somebody else would start writing me. It was real weird like that. I always had somebody that I could kind of talk to. A couple of friends had the phone hooked up, but I didn't blow them up or anything. I kind of just call every now and then because that's how I don't want to run them off. You need people down there. So, but I mean, it was all the friends I used to have. No, the ones that I helped out here. No, people that, and then when I come home, of course, I'm just glad they all moved away when I was gone. I had to tell a few of them just recently, like, nah, man, I'm too focused. I got something else I want to do with my life. I don't, and they're not breaking the law anymore, but I just can't forget that they weren't the ones that were there for me. I have to remember that. I don't hold it against them because they don't owe me anything, but I just know that for 10 years when I needed somebody, my mom, my dad, and my sister, that's it. So what do I look like going out now and hanging out with them? Or no, I just want to work and focus on my future and get myself right. So I'm not worried about that.
I think that we were both pretty fortunate that we had family support while we were
Yes, ma'am.
down. That's definitely not the case for everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we talk about men that you were incarcerated with that maybe didn't have people on the outside to help them financially, emotionally, all of that?
Well, I mean, again, that right there shows you what somebody's made of. You got some of them that'll hustle and they'll make it for themselves. They'll make sure they have food to eat, make sure they won't go around asking for handouts. They'll earn it. And then you have some that just kind of lose themselves down there. They don't have any hope. They can't, no matter how much time they have, it's a little or a lot, they can't see the future. They can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because they feel like nothing's waiting on them out there. I've heard people say that, oh, well, I mean, I don't got nothing out here. In here I got a free bed, I got a free TV, I got free food. And I mean, it's sad, but not everybody's fortunate like that to have, a family or really close people. I mean, it sucks. But again, some of them will let that break them, and some of them won't, and that'll show you right there who the strong ones are, and who really really wants it or really really has a good spirit about themselves, and who don't.
How did you see some of the men who didn't have really financial support on the outside hustle and make a way for themselves?
Oh man, you want? I mean, you already know it's making cakes. Some people make where I came from. People cook like they have like grills, and they'll cook. They'll cook and make bowls for people and sell them. They'll cakes, wash clothes. That's probably the best hustle in the penitentiary. People don't even. Some people turn their nose up at people with wash clothes. I've watched people make, man, crazy money, doing clothes. Some of them work, they work in the kitchen. They steal burgers. I mean, it just depends. It depends where you work. Depends what you're good at. Shit, when I was in the dorms, there's a dude that cleaned cubicles for $1. Clean your cubicle, top to bottom. So I mean, it's just
Jonathan, tell us
everything.
about the grill because this is not something that I ever witnessed in my entire incarceration, but I saw somebody with a contraband phone, and I saw their video on TikTok. So can you break it down? And if I can find that video, I'll play it when I publish this.
You'll see them everywhere. I mean, really, what it is, you just take the hot pot, take the bottom of it off, the heating element. You take all that apart, and it gives you a circle thing that lights up real red. It's the element. It'll do you to burn you, but you said it there.
You
No, you
didn't
didn't
know I
take the
had
hot pot
this
home.
right on my desk. And actually, I didn't know I was going to do all of this social media when I came home. So I did not bring mine. But because of my videos, people send me their stuff when they get out. So
Oh
one of
man,
my, yeah. So this is what he's talking about. This is a hot pot that's sold on commissary. And he's talking about this little metal part.
the very bottom. Yeah, if you take that off, you see the black ring under there. Look at the black ring. Look at the bottom of it.
Uh-huh.
The black ring. It lights up, and what you do is you stand it on. You put a bunch of books, like okay, under either the table or the bunk, you sand the paint off. When you sand it off, it leaves you a piece of plain steel, just regular like brown steel. And when you stack a bunch of books up and you put a couple of aluminum cans and it holds the element up. And surprisingly, they don't burn. And when you turn it on, it gets red. That steel heats up, and it's a real grill. It's a real grill.
So that's against the either the metal tabletop or the metal bunk.
Or you
And
can use
then
the
you're,
stool in the cell, like the silver part, the steel on the
oh
stool.
yeah,
You can use that too. So,
yeah,
yes,
that's
ma'am.
really impressive. And we did not do that. But we had a hair dryer. And so we
And yeah,
did
hey,
cook.
look, I told you about how about Nicole. Yeah, she tells me all the time how she's frying enchiladas and frying. Like we used to communicate over the years, man. We used to write, and she'd always tell me, I'd be so jealous, man. Y'all have hair fryers.
Right.
Y'all had an air fryer before air fryers were even a thing.
And I'm fairly certain that came from an idea from a formerly incarcerated Texas woman, because we were doing air fryers long before they were sold out here. And that was something I used to tell my parents. My dad is so precious that he loves food. He's a food a food enthusiast, I
Yes,
think is
ma'am.
how it goes. So that's how I would tell him when he came to visit. I would say, well, I cooked this and I broke this down, cut up a spam and all of this. And so when an air fryer came out, they came to visit, and my dad said, I've got to tell you something. Like, we have that out here now. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
that's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. In women's prison, food kind of brings people together. It brings community together the same way it does out here. Did you find that to be the same in men's prisons?
Oh, for sure. That's all everybody wants to do. When you want to do something with somebody, that's what it is. Eat. You want to
Yeah.
eat, you want to make something, of course. It don't matter who you are, it doesn't matter. When it comes down to it, you'll see everybody, different organizations, different races, they'll mix behind food. They'll definitely get together behind some food. Especially when
Yeah.
it's the holidays. Oh man, I can't tell you. When it's the holidays, it gets big for sure.
Let's talk about holidays in prison since you brought it up. I'm just going to briefly run through. Let's just say a Thanksgiving, because the kitchen's going to throw down at
Oh, yes,
Thanksgiving
ma'am.
for us,
Yes,
and we're
ma'am.
going to take some of those ingredients home. On Thanksgiving morning, women in prison, we'll press our whites. Our Do y'all press your clothes in there?
You can get it. You can get them pressed in laundry. Towards the end of my sentence, people didn't really do that in the cells anymore, like or on the concrete or anything like that, or on
Hmm.
the bricks. They didn't really. They kind of. Well, I can say I didn't know anybody that did. Somebody probably did it, but for the most part, you always, where I was at, it was kind of wide open, so you could just send your clothes to laundry and they'll press them for $1 or 2 and send them right back.
Laundry pressed your clothes? I
I mean,
can't
if you knew,
even.
you had to know the presser, you had to know the inmate that did it. But yeah, I
It was
mean, it
the
was yeah.
hustle.
Yes, ma'am, for sure.
That was not going on where I was, but where I was, we weren't doing officers' uniforms. I was in a Gatesville where there were several units. My unit didn't do officer uniforms, so they didn't have the press machine. So that
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
have been a hustle. But yeah, we just did it with the water. But with the water and the hot pot lid to press it
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
we would let it dry and it would be nice and crispy. So on Thanksgiving, everybody's wearing their press sets. And of course, we have makeup in there, and we're like way extra with the
Yeah, I
makeup
can't
because
believe
that's,
that. I heard about that. I can't believe y'all have makeup.
yeah. Well, hey, they're going to do anything they can to make some money. And if that's going to sell,
Oh yeah, for
that's going
sure.
to sell in women's prisons. So, and our contraband in there was free world makeup. So
Yeah.
even when eyeshadows, especially, that was a big thing. you would, it was kind of funny. We would have assorted colors in little sweetener packets. That's how we'd keep it. It'd be crushed up like powder, and you'd break it down, and that's how they're sold in a little sweetener packet. Anyway, easy to hide contraband. But anyways,
Yeah.
we would take a perfume sample out of a magazine, and then we'd go to chow and we would bring back everything we could so that we could cook something. Like, that food was pretty good. And actually it
Yeah.
was excellent for a prison meal, but we knew how to make it 1,000 times better once we got back to the dorm.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was a clerk in the kitchen for a long time, or I was a stock clerk. So I'd be the ones back there smoking the turkey, smoking the briskets, smoking the ham, getting all that stuff ready. So I had some good Thanksgivings, but when you work in there, it's kind of you don't want to eat it in there. You don't want to be in there and eat it. Like you get tired of being around it. But the 3 or 4 days beforehand, when we're on the smoker smoking the turkeys, we're smoking burgers and hot links
Yeah.
and chicken. We're smoking everything else. So it's like Thanksgiving happens before Thanksgiving.
We had smoked, I don't remember if they were turkeys or brisket, one time my entire incarceration,
Oh yeah.
but I was on a unit with like 1,300 women. How big was the unit? Were you on one unit or did you travel around? And
I did 2 years at a transfer at Gurney before they closed it down in Palestine, and then I did my last 6 years at Gib Lewis in East Texas in Woodville, right there
how,
next to Palunsky, right there down the street from Palunsky.
mhm.
So it's 2,200 people, but it's split up. You got minimum security side, which is like 1,300, and then you got high security side, which is 900.
Well, I
So
just was trying to give them a little credit, thinking maybe you were on a smaller unit and that's why you ate
oh
better.
no,
But
I'm surprised y'all never had that stuff smoked. We smoke for the whole unit, so I'm surprised. I figured they usually do it everywhere. We had a big smoker on the back dock.
I'm mad. I feel
No, you
salty
ain't missed
about
nothing.
that.
You ain't missed nothing. You ain't missed nothing.
But I'm eating well now.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
can we talk about violence in men's prisons in Texas? Did you witness a lot of bad violence? Did you witness any rioting or anything like extreme like that? Or
I've never witnessed a full fledged like riots. A bunch of people getting stabbed. I've never witnessed that. Now it's happened like on another building where I was at, but I've never actually with my own eyes seen it. I've been kind of lucky, I've been in some close calls, where situations got out of hand, and or matter of fact, after I made parole last year during the Golden State and Boston basketball finals. I'm talking about during the game. It was crazy. They pulled out a bunch of knives, but luckily, I mean, where I was at, for the most part, you could usually. I mean, there'd be fights and stuff. Sometimes I hate to say it, but people don't understand anything else. You try to speak reason with them and talk to them, and they only understand fighting. They don't understand, speaking and being an adult or being a grown man and kind of coming to terms with it. They don't want to compromise, or they feel severely disrespected. And if they were to say, okay, we're good, then all of a sudden they feel like their credibility gets lost or something. I don't know. I don't understand that. But maybe my younger self would probably understand it a little better. But nowadays, I just kind of brush it off. But I mean, I've seen people fight with broomsticks and stuff like that get out of hand. I've seen people get 4-on-1 or 5-on-1 get jumped pretty bad. I've seen officers jump on an inmate. I've seen it, but it does happen though. It's where I was at. We try to keep it kind of peaceful, but it's still sometimes unavoidable. Sometimes things just happen, but nowadays with all the cameras they have now, everybody's kind of scared to do it. There was a right before I caught chain, I caught an FI6 and went to a 6-month program. But like 3 weeks before I left, there was a big riot in the wing. Well, I'm okay. I was the riot in the wing next door. I forgot about this. In the wing next door where I live, you can see through the glass. And there was a riot. It was like 5-on-4, 5-on-5, and they picked up broomsticks, and it got pretty hectic. And the whole building was on lockdown we had a disciplinary lockdown for a month while they investigated. But those cameras, they catch everything nowadays. They spent all that money, put a bunch of big, nice camera system in there, and it catches everything. So you're hard pressed. If you do anything that attracts the law's attention, all they do is look at the cameras, and people didn't really want to get locked up. They're kind of trying to do their time a little easier. So
in women's prisons, that was pretty much my experience. As far as I never witnessed too much bad, like horrible stories,
yeah,
and no riots at all. I did definitely witness officers on an inmate one time, and it was pretty horrific. I'm just curious about drugs. We did the same amount of time, just almost 11 years.
yes, man.
And I saw marijuana maybe twice. I saw a couple of times free world pills, and I was moved all around my unit. I was well known amongst my peers, and I feel like I would have kind of at least known if that kind of stuff was going on. Can we talk about drugs in the men's penitentiary?
That's what makes it go round. That's what makes the men's penitentiary move. That's what, man. I've seen more drugs in there than I saw. I mean, I saw when I was in the war, I sold weed and I sold some pills every now and then. But I've seen harder drugs in prison than I've seen out here. And it's everywhere. You can't avoid it. You go out to the day room, it's right there. Maybe you have a cellie. You live with somebody that does drugs. I mean, it's unavoidable, and especially in a men's prison, you're not going to the officers and saying, "Hey, I need to move out of this cell because of such and such," or "I need to move." It's not happening. You're better off dealing with it yourself than trying to do something like that and being labeled as anything else. But I mean, what's really bad is methamphetamine got really bad the past couple years. I mean, really bad. This is a crazy story, and when I tell people, they don't, but they're hard pressed to believe it. But I don't know. Have you ever heard of bath salts? Okay, so somebody, I guess, whatever, got a hold of some methamphetamine mixed with bath salts or something, and man, a guy, he was up for so long that his I don't want to give his name, but he's on Jet 3 right now. He pulled one of his eyes out, and he was back in SEG under suicide watch, but the officer that was supposed to be watching him wasn't paying attention. And he kept telling him there's cameras in his eyes. And he pulled one of his eyes out, and he was trying to get the other one out, but they caught him in time. And we watched him, we were on the wreck yard. We watched him come out on a stretcher, and he was screaming. And they put him in an ambulance, and they sent him to the hospital. You have to send an officer to go stand guard while an inmate's in the hospital. And one of the officers actually came back and said that he was fully blind in the eye that came out, and then he was almost all the way blind in his other eye. He's on Gesture 3 right now. He was I'm not gonna say he's a good friend of mine, but he's a guy that I talk to frequently, and I don't know. And it's between methamphetamine and K2. I mean, some people that just gets a hold of them, that just they do it and they can't shake it, or it grabs them and it holds them, and he would go on and off with it, on and off with it, and I guess that was just, I don't know, man. It was bad, man. The whole unit was kind of messed up about that. So, I mean, it's definitely a problem though. People doing crazy things for it, people spending their family's money, you know, borrowing from other people. That caused a lot of issues, a lot of fights behind that. I mean, people just getting in the hole, owing a bunch of money, and then catching out, leaving the unit or leaving the wing, saying their life's in danger, all that. I mean, that's the source of a lot of problems in there. So it's bad.
I can't imagine how it would be someone trying to change their life and maybe they're in recovery in that situation where
Yeah.
it's so easily obtainable in
Oh
there.
yeah. I mean, it's basically free sometimes. You have friends that, hey, you want to smoke? Hey, you want to do this? I mean, it is, but you got to really want it. You got to actually prison. I've always tell people, prison doesn't rehabilitate you. It just gives you a place to rehabilitate yourself if you want to. You have to want it. It's not going to do anything for you. The classes are optional. You know, reading is optional. Thinking about your mistakes and about your decisions, it's all optional. You have to actually choose to make a conscious decision to do it. It's not going to do it for you.
And that's something that you did while you were in there. It wasn't necessarily the state, it was something within you that you decided you didn't want that old life anymore.
Oh
Was
yes,
that
ma'am.
was that something that you came to all at once, or was it over time? How did you go from being this kid in that kind of life and to the young man that we're looking at right now?
When I was first in the county, I was young. I had just turned 21. So for that first 2 years I was in county, I'm not gonna say I was trying to find myself necessarily, but you gotta kind of move in a certain way to where you don't want to make anybody mad. You don't want to get on anybody's bad side, but you're also not looking for best friends, but you're just trying to survive. So you kind of just like I did a lot of playing dominoes, and just the only thing you can really do in Harris County, hang out, watch TV, but you kind of just I wasn't real picky with the people I surrounded myself with, which is how I was in the world. I just kind of I hung out with a lot of the wrong people, but I wasn't picky at first because I mean I feel like I wasn't in a place where I could be. I'm just trying to survive and make sure I'm cool with this person, this person. So if something ever happens, we'll be able to work it out. And then I was at Gurney and kind of went through the same kind of thing because it's an open space, and it's a big 54-man dorm, and everybody's in the same. So you never get any alone time, you never get any solitude to actually think in any kind of silence, any kind of peace. There's always somebody up screaming or people always around. But I actually got G4'd over a crazy BS case supposed to be minor. And when I got to Gib Lewis, it was a disciplinary unit. That's why I went there. I was G4, but the warden saw my case and he overturned it and gave me my G2 back at the same day because he said it was a stupid case. So anyway, but when I got there, that's about the time and I hate to sound so stubborn and hard headed, but that's when it kicked in. Like it took that many years for me to finally realize, like, man, I knew what I did was wrong. I knew what kind of case I had. I knew that I broke the law. I understood all that, but to really actually sit down and think beyond just what happened, think like, why did I do this stuff? Why did I do all the dumb stuff I did, and you know, and disrespect the people I disrespected, and my family when they're the only ones still there for me. Like, so when I finally got to that cell, I was on a 90-day restriction. So I was still on a restriction. He overturned my line class. He didn't overturn the case. He gave my line class back, and that's when he oh, that's when so I was on 90-day restriction. I was stuck in my cell. Other than chow, you go to chow, you can go to take a shower, and you're back in your cell for 90 days. And during that time, just I didn't, your property has to follow you. So I didn't have anything. I had a book every now and then. Somebody give me a book, but I just had time to myself. And I started writing. And I remember one day on my birthday, I want to say 2017, no, 16, for my birthday. My mom and my sister came to see me, and I don't know what it was, but it was just, it was a crazy, I don't know, I can't explain it honestly. But I remember I just went back to my cell and I started writing. And if you've seen my pictures on Facebook, you might have seen pictures of a bunch of letters that I wrote. Those are actually letters that I wrote to the world. Like, I think I wrote like 30 of them, and I would just write about lessons I was learning down here. I was kind of writing to myself, but I was sending to my sister, and she would put them on Facebook just for anybody to read. Just to kind of show that you can take a lot of stuff out of a small situation, or out of the small, like, prison is a world that's minimized. Everything is right there. It's all small and it's compact in one place. And it took me about 4 or 5 years in to finally realize, like, that this wasn't for me. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I mean, I needed prison. I did need to be there. I deserve my time. I deserve everything I got. But it just took me a long time to actually decide to want better. And I feel so stupid. It feels so stupid because a lot of people out here, they'll get a traffic ticket and change their life, or they'll run a stop sign and freak out and change their life. And it just took me so much more. So, but it did take a little while to finally start making a conscious decision to stop wasting my time, stop doing stupid stuff, to actually start being down there and just wanting to learn more things. And because I realized I didn't know anything about how the world works. It's like, okay, I gotta learn and start going and start progressing. And I realized that as we make progress, and that's really like the key of life, making progress. And when you make that progress, you feel a lot different when you're seeing the progress, when you're seeing yourself move forward and make better decisions. It actually pays off. I was always an instant gratification kind of person, but now I understand, like, sacrificing now and making a decision, it's going to pay off, down the road where I can't see it yet. So
You figured that out in a shorter amount of time than I did. So
come on now.
no, I
I mean,
was
it didn't happen
still,
overnight. It didn't happen overnight. It took me
yeah.
some time to still, continue doing that. But that was the instance I remember that kind of triggered it. You just kind of, I was fed up with it.
I love that you said it didn't happen overnight, and it doesn't. Any choice we make for change, just because we've made the decision within ourselves, within our spirit, within our heart, doesn't mean that all of a sudden our environment immediately adapts to that. And it doesn't mean that we don't have fleeting thoughts of our old way of thinking.
Oh,
So
for
all of
sure.
that
For
change
sure.
is a process.
Yes,
Change is a
ma'am.
process. Um, so anything else about your prison time that you feel compelled to share with us? We'd love to hear any other tidbits at all.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, without you asking a specific question. I mean, I went through a lot down there, but I went through a lot within myself, and I know I put myself there, so I know I had to get myself out. It wasn't. I mean, I know I did as much time as I needed to do. I came up in 7.5 years. I got set off. I wasn't getting in trouble. I went 5 years without a case. After I got to that unit in 2016, I didn't get another case. So I just, okay, they set me off once, set me off twice, and I was mad at the world, and I was shaking my head, and called my mom, and she told me, after my second one, she said, just keep doing what you're doing. And I told her, I said, what I'm doing is not working. So what's the point? But I didn't understand that it was working, just not where I could see it, not right in front of me, not out in the open, not, and I remember I told her one time, like, man, I needed prison, and then I know it hurts to hear that as being a mom, but I feel like I needed this place. I did, because if it didn't happen like that, it might have happened a worse way, or if I had just got caught for selling drugs and got a couple of years, I might not have learned my lesson. I might have went down there for 2 or 3 years and came home, and nothing would have changed. I would have just been back home, and But this amount of time, missing that amount of time, and I don't know how you did it because I don't have any kids, so I don't know. It's just, yeah, it was hard, but I mean, I needed every day I did, I needed it for sure, up to the whole 10 and a half years. Because if I had even made my first or second parole, I wasn't in the frame of mind, right, the same way I am here. I wasn't as focused, and I want to say I might not even. I mean, I don't think I would have went back to what I was doing, but I wouldn't have had the understanding that it's going to take time. I still kind of wanted it to happen overnight. I wanted to get out and have this and get out and have that. But like now, I'm on an ankle monitor right now, so and that's helping me a little bit. But I understand like it's not going to happen overnight. But I have to just hit the ground, work, keep my head down, and keep moving forward. And eventually, when I look up, it'll all be good.
You talked about Harris County Jail having air conditioning. The Texas has a law in place for jails.
65 to 85, right?
That's right.
I talked to a reporter this morning off that Facebook. She
Okay.
from 11 to 12, I had an interview with the reporter, and I was talking to her about it. And yeah, she told me about that. No lower than 65, no higher than 85. And I mean, she told me about, she asked me about like what do I think they could do about the heat. And I mean, honestly, I told her, I said, unless you, knock down every prison and rebuild it. I mean, I don't know how Texas could spend the money or would spend the money because there's no insulation, places like the walls and stuff, half of them don't have windows. So I think it would just be more work than Texas wants to deal with. And I told her the same thing I'll tell you, like in Harris County or in any county, you have people that are still innocent that haven't been convicted of a crime yet. So they haven't lost their rights as a citizen. They haven't, when we sign for time, we sign our rights over, you know, but not our human rights. We just sign our rights as a citizen, not our, humane rights. But I guess in the county, maybe they have more money. I don't know how that make any sense. Maybe not, but they have innocent people in there that are still waiting to go to trial that have not been convicted of anything. So I don't know if there's anything to do with it or not, but I don't know. Heat is bad though.
People are literally dying.
Oh yes, ma'am.
And it's not something new, but this summer there is a bigger heat wave. We're
Yes,
in
ma'am.
record breaking temperatures, record breaking amount of days where we've had triple digit weathers in this state. And yeah, it's a big concern. And I love that there has been so much news coverage over this. We're just hearing from all over reporters from all over the country and even internationally. So I'm excited about that and hope that it will put some pressure. I personally feel like there are definitely some old buildings that need work there that maybe can't even have air conditioned put in. And guess what, Jonathan? I don't care because
Yes, ma'am.
they need to figure it out. They
Yes,
are
ma'am.
responsible for the health and the lives of the people that are in their care,
Yes, ma'am.
and they need to figure it out. Also, we have a surplus. Our budget was so huge, and Texas, we had bipartisan support in the House. They were good to go, good to go. We had all this excitement. It gets to the finance committee, and they don't even let it be heard in the Senate. And so they had a surplus of $32.7 billion. We asked for half a billion. But let's talk about how you dealt with that heat. You went in as a fairly healthy, I'm assuming, young man.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, so how was the heat for you personally, and did you witness anything in regards to the heat?
I mean, honestly, I witnessed more officers passing out and falling out and going out on stretchers than I did inmates, I think. I mean, you know, so Harris County has AC. When I got to Gurney, I mean, I'm like a lot of people. I couldn't believe that TDC didn't have AC. Like when I talk to people out here and I tell them, like I work in a job, I deliver moonwalks and slides and carnival rides. I deliver them, set them up. So I work outside. I've been outside in the heat since I got home every day. But I came from prison. It's not a big deal to me. I like working in the sun. It does get draining, but it's still good work, and I'm still young enough, and I'm in good enough shape to where I can move pretty well. So it's not a big of a deal to me. But when I tell people out here that there's no AC in prison, they like what? Like they don't believe, like they don't understand that some people don't have air conditioning. Like it's not. Yes, your house and your car has it, but no, prison doesn't. Like there's no AC in prison, and well, in most spots, and they can't believe it. They tell me they don't know how they would survive and how. I mean, but you don't have a choice. I mean, I told the reporter, I said that the hottest part of the day is like when the sun's setting, 4 or 5 o'clock. I had to sail that face west or the back of the face west. So when the sun sets, it's on those bricks. And then I had a corner cell. So I had two brick walls instead of one that was getting sun all day. And when the sun set and then bricks start cooling off and that humidity comes off of them, oh man, you can't beat it. You better have about 5 or 6 fans. And I mean, it's hard to beat. You can put all the cold water you want to on you or drink all the cold water you want. You can beat the cold, you can't beat the heat. You can get down to one pair of boxers and lay on the floor. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but there's no beating it. I mean, it gets hot. And I mean, the officers are just as bad off as the inmates. And you already know all it does is create more problems. It creates aggression, irritability. Everybody's mad at the world. We want to have our shirts off. I don't know about y'all. We want to have our shirts off because we're men and it's hot. And officers want us to have our shirts on. But I mean, it's hard. It's definitely hard.
And already that heat, you talked about the humidity and it's off the chain. Like if you get that rare summer rain and it would cool off just a little bit for that one
Oh,
day,
and it gets
that
worse.
then
Yep.
it's 1,000 times worse that next day.
Yep.
And those days you almost had to consciously tell yourself you can breathe because
Yeah.
your body wants to say, you don't breathe this. This isn't right. But you have to say, breathe, like the air is so thick. And
Yeah.
so you were incarcerated during COVID. Were you ever required to wear a mask in that?
Oh yeah. They just got rid of the mask. I think about a year ago. I think they officially lifted the mask a year, maybe a little over a year ago. Really, what it was when the vaccines came out, they went around and told the whole unit, look, if we can get the unit to a such and such percentage of vaccinated people, y'all can get rid of the mask. It's on y'all. We're not going to force y'all to do it. We can't force y'all to do it, but we're letting y'all know that the state says, if we get, I think it was like 73% or some weird number. If we get this many vaccinated, we can get y'all can get the mask up. We can kind of let y'all move a little better. We can, go back to, kind of go back to normal. And it took them a little while, but they would come around like once a week, twice a week and say, anybody want to get their vaccine? Anybody hasn't got it yet? And they had rosters and they were trying to, because I mean, officers wanted to do it as much as the inmates did. The master, I worked on a utility squad, cleaning showers and stuff. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. It was a hassle. I did see a couple people get COVID though and left to hospital, never came back. I don't know what happened to them, but it was crazy down there for sure.
Those masks were hard to breathe in the
Oh,
heat,
yes, ma'am. If you wore them
for
how they were supposed to
sure.
be worn, yes, ma'am.
A lot of people incarcerated in Texas prisons lost their lives during COVID. And I think that that's just the setup of a prison is not conducive to not spread germs. We're all sharing everything in this tiny little space with no fresh air.
Yep.
So definitely. And then in the summer, the heat just breeds germs and bacteria even
Yep.
more, for sure. How did you know a pandemic was going on? I have my story, which
How did
I've told on here before, but how did you
well,
like know what that COVID was going on? And was there ever a moment where you were like, this is kind of scary?
well, I mean, I remember seeing stuff on the news about it, when it first came, first happened in China or whatever, and it first came over. But I remember when they put the flyers on the wall saying all visitation is canceled. I had never seen that. Like I mean, even like, during lockdowns, you were still getting visits, and I had never seen they canceled all visitation, contact, non-contact. And that was crazy. Like doing that, to me, that was crazy. I mean, I don't have a specific story necessarily, but I remember them putting that thing on the walls saying, I didn't get visits that often, but I just knew for the TDC to do something like that, to take our family visitation, I knew something was going on. I knew something serious was going on. And I mean, I was on quarantine for quite a while one time just because people kept catching it and they kept, man, it was crazy.
And can you just briefly talk about what quarantine means if your dorm's on quarantine?
If you're on quarantine, I mean, people, even the officers didn't want to come in there. They're having to wear that PPE, like the gown, the face mask, the gloves. They're bringing us. At first, they were just bringing us like regular Johnny sacks, regular sack lunches. But we started writing grievances on that stuff, and they finally started putting extra stuff in there. A lot of us had our families call up there, and because they were supposed to increase the calorie count on that stuff, because I mean it's a sickness. Our bodies need a certain amount of calories to operate, and keep our immune system up. So they started putting like meat packs and different stuff, chikes in there.
I was quarantined for almost a full year in my dorm.
Damn.
Our women's unit had the highest number of COVID cases percentage wise. So I think that they were like overly cautious. Our kitchen was completely shut down. The Johnny Sacks came from another unit, and I didn't witness this firsthand because I was in the dorm, but the officers told us that when that other unit delivered Johnny Sacks, they threw them over the gates. Like they did
What?
not even go in the Sally port.
Oh
And
man.
because it was really crazy. So it was that kind of vibe. It was scary. The officers were wearing PPE equipment, and I just remember when they came in the first time, I was like, I don't know. We might die here. Like there were enough cases, people falling out. They had to make one dorm where they were putting all the sick people together in an open dorm because our cells were all full. And it was insane. It was
Man.
insane. But when our dorm was quarantined, we were confined to our cubicle. It was like hardcore quarantine.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was serious. So yeah, we get a lot of questions asking about how COVID happened in
Did
prisons
they
and
did they
things.
cut y'all's phone? Did they cut y'all's phone calls down to like one 15-minute call a day?
Hey, they cut our phones off for a
Oh damn.
months. And then we all got started grieving, and they let us do a 5-minute phone call, but it wasn't through our regular the blue phones. It was go in the office, they would wipe down the phone, and you called from there, and the officer's like sitting right there in your
Damn.
face while it's bad enough that it's being recorded and it can be heard, but
Yeah.
trying to talk for 5 minutes to your loved one when you haven't for months, with that officer, it was a horrible phone call. So what we would do is like we would just periodically pick up the blue phones to see if they were working. And it was early one morning, and my friend came, and she knocked on that cubicle wall's metal, so it's all
Yeah.
shaking. And I'm like, what is it? And she said, girl, the phones are on. And I looked over and nobody's on them. I said, what do you mean? They're letting us call. She said, no, I picked it up and they're on. And I went and got on that phone because I was calling my kids.
Yeah.
And I just that was probably the closest to maybe it could have turned into a riot. Had the officers It was the first time that I ever saw a group of women in the penitentiary stick together because we were lined up. All four of the phones were being used. I mean, I'm on it and I'm like, I'm not going to talk the whole time because there's a whole line behind me, but I'm checking
Yeah.
on everybody because we didn't know what was going on. And we had people that their family didn't know how to J-pay, and the mail was restricted because of COVID. So it was taking forever. I
Yep.
mean, it was insane. So yeah, those phones, that was serious. The phones were serious. So Jonathan, I want to talk about your life now outside of prison. You said you're on an ankle monitor. Can you
Yes,
just
man.
kind of briefly talk about your restrictions regarding your ankle monitor?
Oh well, all I really have is a curfew. I mean, I have to go see my, when you're on an ankle monitor, you're on like a medium supervision. So I see my PO every I see him twice a month. I got blessed. I got a really good and a really cooperative, a really cool PO. Like he's very understanding. You know, so I had a curfew from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and the weekends I had to stay inside. But he said, look, if you get a job, he said, it'll open up. I can figure out your hours, and I can release a little bit, and I can be lenient with you. But you have to show me something. You have to show me that you're trying to do something. You're trying to be better, and this and that. And so I said, all right, cool. So maybe my first week home, I was just reaching out to people, old friends that weren't part of what I was used to do, but different friends, and trying to see if anybody had any kind of work or anything. And nothing was really panning out. It was really crazy how it happened. I was looking everywhere, and my neighbors saw me come home. I've known them for 20 something years, and I grew up in this house, and my parents, and my neighbor's wife, he and they knew me back when I was in my wild days. I was getting in trouble. cops coming to the house, cops looking for me, just doing dumb stuff, not even just really bad, just stupid stuff. And so I was really surprised. But my neighbor, she called my mom and said, "Hey, come outside." And mom went to go talk to her, and she just told her like, "Hey, if Jonathan wants some work, I don't know what his plans are, what he wants to do, but if he wants some work, we need some help, and we'll pay him good. We'll take care of him." And so she came to me and said, "I don't know if you want to do it." And I said, "Why wouldn't I? That's crazy. Somebody just stuck their hand out. Why would I tell them no? That doesn't make it. Hell yeah, I want to do it." So I got a she gave me her number and said, "Well, it's on." She said, "It's on you to call him." So I called her and they came and talked to me the next day. And he actually the owner, well, they both own it, but her husband actually called my PO the next a couple days later, talked to him, told him, my hours, what the work was gonna be. He had to fill out a piece of paper. I screenshotted it to him in my PO, opened my hours up on the weekend. And I've been putting like 30 to 40 hours a week, and I've been working like Thursday through Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I've been squeezing a lot of hours in a short period of time. And it's been a blessing because, my case, I have a manslaughter case. I was drinking and driving. That's the hardest, it's the hardest part about all this. But my license wasn't just suspended, it was revoked by the medical advisory board. So my biggest problem was getting my license back. It's been a hassle. The all government agencies are short staffed. So getting a hold of a person to talk to has been crazy. But I finally, last week, a lady finally contacted me, and the ball's rolling. I should have it in a couple weeks. But the coolest part is that they not only gave me a job, but they take me to and from work every day. And they always, they feed me sometimes, and not that I'm hurting for food, but they just look out for me. And it's been crazy because I told somebody, man, like I looked everywhere for any kind of help, for jobs. I reached out to all my old friends, people I thought might, yeah, I ain't seen you in 10 years, but hey, man, I need some help. All right, got you. And then it came from a place literally 20 feet away that I didn't even look. I knew I kind of knew they owned the business because I've heard about it over the years from my parents, but I didn't really know, like, and it's good, hard work out in the sun, outside. I don't mind sweating. They're good people. And they're waiting for me to get my license so I can start driving and, have my own crew and deliver stuff myself. But they started me out at a good wage, gave me a pay raise already. So I just took the same work ethic from prison and brought it right here and just told them, I said, "Man, I don't mind working. I'll work all day. I'll do all the heavy lifting. It's not a, I'm young, I can take it. Like, it's not a big deal." But, I'm trying to show them I appreciate the job because I really do. It's crazy. It's really crazy how it happened.
I love that, and I think that that's a very common, denominator amongst formerly incarcerated. I feel especially Texans, because not only did we work very hard physical labor in there, but we worked for free. So that was
Yep.
how I felt when I got out. My first job was a warehouse job, and I was like, everybody's like, "You don't wanna work there. I've heard all these bad things." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? There this
Yeah.
is cake. This is
It's
cake
easy. I'm
compared to
getting
what I
paid for
was
that stuff.
doing."
I used to do it for
Right.
free. I used to do it for free. And I used to tell
Exactly.
people when I was in prison, people would always, they see the way I work. I told you I was a stock clerk, so I unloaded trucks in the kitchen a lot, and the can trucks and all that stuff. And I like it. It's like a workout. It keeps me in shape. And people just tell me like, "Man, I don't see how you work so much. I'm not working for these people for free." And I try to tell them like, you know, money is just is just a form of currency. Like, I'm not working for money. I'm not looking to work for money. Like, I'm working to gain a good work ethic, and and to understand that I need a job when I come home. I'm working for that in the future. I'm not working for money. None of us are getting paid. I don't get good time or work time. I said, but you talk about working for free because you're not getting money, but I'm not working for free. I'm learning skills. I'm learning how to do things. I'm learning how to unload trucks and stack things a certain way, because when I get out and get a warehouse job, guess what I'm going to do? That right there. So why wouldn't I do it and learn in here so when I get home I can hit the ground running? It makes no sense. If I hadn't worked like that out in there, and I just wanted to do a freaking an admin job or something where I get to work in the AC, I wouldn't want to be out here in the sun sweating like this. I probably wouldn't like it. So I knew that I was setting myself up for something I was gonna have to do when I got home. How I got paid. That's what worked for me.
Jonathan, I love your attitude. I love your outlook on life. What's next for you?
Well, the only goal that I have left, I wrote a bunch of goals down before I got home, and the only goal I have left is to get my license. And once I do that, I'm gonna have a vehicle, and it's either gonna be, I work Thursday through Sunday or Friday through Sunday with this job. And actually, a buddy of mine I was locked up with called me last week and said his uncle's a general contractor. I got my electrical certification down there, so he said that they want me to go work on a job in Pearland. I'm from Katy, the west side of Houston, but Pearland's towards the south side. But he said, man, so I get my license. He's a general contractor. He wants to give me a job, during the week. So I'm either gonna have those two jobs. I mean, I really want to go to CDL school. It sounds like a thing that a lot of felons do and stuff like that. But I really feel like if I do that, I could get in a truck and drive and save all the money I need to while I'm driving because I have nothing but time. I don't have any responsibilities here. I don't have any financial responsibilities. I don't have any kids. I don't have anything holding me down. So why not use the next couple of years? I mean, I sacrificed 10 already. I can sacrifice a couple more driving and saving all the money I can and being away from anything around here that might even kind of negatively influence me. But that's what I want to do. But if something takes me in another direction where I feel like I'm making the same money or more, here, then I might just stick with that. I'm already certified as an electrician, so if I were getting that job and maybe work my way up, I mean, it just depends. But I just know that I'm gonna just take that same work ethic wherever opportunity I get. I'm gonna use it to its fullest advantage, gain the most benefit I can from it.
That's incredible, Jonathan. And what would you tell people that have a loved one incarcerated? How should they encourage them, or how can they best support their loved one who's in prison?
I mean, the two things that I think best support them, people are talking about like sending them money and stuff like that. But like I told you, I hustled. I wasn't. Yeah, my people send me money every once in a while, but I tried my best to not ask them for anything because I knew there's already an emotional strain just me being down there. So the only thing I can really tell them, if you're down there, hold your head up and don't lose hope because the end of the tunnel's there eventually. No matter what kind of time you have, there's an end to it. And if you have loved ones down there, don't just support them by being there. I mean, that's a lot, yes, but let them know that because sometimes we can have people and we still don't feel like they're there, or we can talk on the phone to our people and we feel like they're not hearing us or they're not understanding what we're talking about because what we go through in there it seems so petty and it seems so minuscule. And the people out here, if you've never been in there, you don't understand it. Like you don't understand what it's like to get short of the corn dog and the Johnny when you ain't got no commissary. You know what I mean? You don't understand what it's like for a boss to not let you take a cold shower because you've been sweating all night while you're sleeping. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard for them to understand because they have, free world problems, but we're in the penitentiary, but those are our world problems too. 'Cause that's where we live. So, be there for them, but tell them you're there for them. Let them know, like, when you got somebody out here that loves you, no matter what you feel, no matter what you're going through, you got somebody that's going to be here. And, because we all got somebody that loves us, but we don't always have somebody who tells us they love us. So that's the hard part. Have their back, man. That's all I can say because we all need somebody.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so
No.
much for being so open with us.